This is take 3. We're not going to be editing this program, but we edited out the first 2 takes. Welcome to the first episode of Truth Empowered Relationships podcast, which is called Adventures in Truth. Heather and I started this a few months back. We didn't really have a theme to it. We just knew we wanted to share our truth empowered life. And now that we have the sessions online, we wanted to record this with the theme of we're going to answer the questions that are at the end of each session. And so we have a way to welcome you into our life. I tell people, be careful who you let coach you, because they have to be able to walk the walk. We live this life. And so we want to answer this question so you can hear what our relationships with the truth are and what our relationship with sensitivity is. You just answered this on take 1. So just dig back into it. That's as far as we got, by the way.
Oh, gosh, my mind just went blank.
Let me ask it.
No, hold on. There was something else I wanted to say before we move into the questions. Oh, the idea is so that we are an example of how these conversations can happen with your truth partner. We're a romantic relationship, and not all truth partners are romantic.
No.
But it's still the same type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, ask me.
1 part therapist, 1 part coach, 1 part best friend, 1 part, for lack of a better term, 1 part lover. So, okay, this is the question. Question 1. What is your relationship with the truth?
Well, my relationship with the truth now is that...
Wait, answer it before us and after us, because I'm going to make you the transition point too.
Okay.
So what was your relationship with the truth, and now what is? How's that?
See, I needed both the questions.
Okay.
My relationship with the truth before you was like this. I grew up in a home where it didn't really matter if I was speaking the truth. I was going to get punished for whatever I was going to get punished for. So my truth didn't matter, and I recognized that really, really early on. And so I made it not matter to me. I lied to myself, and I lied to other people as a protection mechanism. And that put me into a really, really deep hole within myself, like a cave, like I no longer existed. I was just some sort of robot out there, people pleasing my way through life as best I could. I was also a little bit rebellious, but that was my truth, trying to still exist. But my truth after you was like, I get to exist. Like somebody actually wants to know me, not hear what they want to hear. You're not looking for me to perform for you or to fill some spot in your psyche. You're not looking for someone to project on. You wanted me, the truth of me. And that's been a huge part of me healing as a whole, as a person. And so the truth has been some medicine that I really, really needed. It's been love, and it's been supportive, and it's been difficult to accept and embrace, but it has been a huge part of my growth. What was your relationship with truth? And then what is your relationship with truth?
My mom sat on the grass with me once. Let me start back. That's a story I'm going to tell, but in my reality, I've always been a deeply honest person. Like, it's who I am. It's my core nature. And then I was, without telling the story, I've told it in other places, but after I experienced a sexual trauma, I was basically told that other people have it worse. And that was a beginning of a schism of the truth. And then I saw what I considered to be insensitive and shocking behavior in my family of origin. And I was told repeatedly that I had a wonderful family. And that, even when I would question the fact that these people were being insensitive to each other, wonderful family. And so my schism was growing. And at this particular point that I'm going to tell you, I lied. It's rare that I can say that. I've lied. I'll tell you another one in a minute, but a sewer top had been pulled off and I was involved. I don't think I did it. I don't remember. But, somebody mowing the lawn could have fallen, maybe not fallen in, but their leg could have fallen in. They could be really hurt. I know I was involved in the removal of the sewer top. And I said I didn't do it. Now, my mom, I was scared of my mom. And she sat down in the ground on the side of our house, and it was unlike her to have a peer-to-peer conversation with me. So this stands out in my memory. I have a handful of these. And she said, it's important to tell the truth in life. This person who had, as she shared with me, her own doubts about her family, which were also quashed by, you have a wonderful family. She said it's important to be honest in life, because if you aren't, you have to remember two versions of the story. Pardon me, that's my phone. I'll turn this off. You have to remember two versions of the story. So already I can identify I had a schism in my life where I was splitting. Then I got in trouble when I was anything but happy. I was sent to my room, literally said, go to your room and don't come out till you're in a good mood. It started with, oh, you're in a bad mood? Like that. So I could only be happy. More of a schism. Now I have a smile glued on my face. And I remember thinking in my bedroom, remember this. Remember how you're actually feeling. But I can tell you, as life goes on and you live like that, suddenly the smile becomes kind of fixed. My nervous system identified with it. There was stuff that was bothering me, but it was crystallized. And another time I remember lying, and there's only a handful in my life that I can actually remember lying. There have been lots of times I've hemmed and hawed rather than saying no. I was afraid to say no. Someone saw me. I was going up the stairs, and I was having a miserable day. I felt like I was at a dead end at my job, in my romantic relationships. I was now an adult. Everywhere you can imagine, I felt miserable. Coming down this big hallway at this place where I worked, this ad agency, and a woman coming up named Lisa said, "Hey, Marshall, how are you?" And I will have a session called "How Are You?" You'll hear my response. Well, in this particular case, I answered something other than fine. I said, "I'm not doing too well today." She stopped on the stairs, blah, 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 and there's this workshop, and blah, 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 and then blah, blah, blah. And I remember inside, I was shaking, but I stayed calm. Okay, thanks a lot. Walking to the drinking fountain, thinking about the idea that there's a place where you would go in and be honest, completely honest and open with people. Went to the first thing, and I believed at that time that I didn't need to be honest about my emotions so that I could feel more, that I felt too much and then I needed to feel less. I had been told in my life I was too sensitive, and what I was actually feeling was my resistance to my emotions. So that's where I started as an adult to go from this back to this. And there were lots of places I was still lying to myself, but more than 2 decades and more than a couple of $100,000 of personal growth meant I'm adhering to the truth. Now, I did this energetic work, which I won't name out of respect to the fact that it made a difference in my life. But I feel like if you're not careful with it, it can make it easier to lie to yourself. You know what I'm talking about. So now I meet you.
Me.
And I don't know, was I lying? Yes, based on what I feel now, I was lying to myself. I certainly had been lied to in this relationship. I was confused as to why life did not have as much love in it as I thought there would be. And I wrote you, or we were in this group together, and I messaged you. And I remember you answered these questions that I asked you, and I kind of thought you were lying.
I probably was. Still lying to myself.
And I had liked talking with you, but I was disappointed.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks go by, not a couple days, 10 days maybe. It was a substantial amount of time.
Yeah.
And you showed up back again on this app in the lobby, and you direct messaged me, DM'd me, and you said, I've been thinking a lot about the questions you asked. Here's my real answers to the questions. And immediately I was like, I really like this person. Because not only did you go from lying to telling the truth, and there's one more thing I'm going to tell, but you then told the truth in a very deep and clear way. And there is another connection to the truth that I forgot to tell you. Now we go back before I met her. I'll come back to her in a minute. When I was a young man, like I said, survivor of sexual trauma, I had sexual fantasies that in my version of reality were aggressive. And I get a thumbs up for that, which is nice because I've beaten myself up many times. And she's reassured me about them. But at this time, I was disturbed about my own fantasies. And I told my father. And he picked that moment to tell me about a gravely serious crime he was involved in. And I was the only person he ever told. And I cannot tell you what kind of psychological burden it was to hold that in and to still have to deal with my own codes of morality and ethics and the family I was seeing. And so I tell you, there were a lot of times I was driving down the freeway and I thought of steering my car into the median and saying to myself, boy, why do you have those thoughts? You have such a good life, such a wonderful life, like I was taught. But what really stood out to me in that moment was the fact that my dad I was the only person he ever told about this. I knew that he knew that I was safe to tell the truth to. And in my life, people have told me shockingly, extraordinarily disturbing, upsetting, provocative truths, including women opening up to me about affairs, seeing other people, but people I've worked with, clients, people I've stood for, telling me crimes they've committed, things like that. So I guess I'm a person people can unburden to. But what I do know is I'm a person who usually brings other people's sense of truth around. So there are people who don't like me. They tend to not be honest. Now let me go forward. So I remember you coming to meet me in that hotel. And I think you had told me somehow you put a GPS thing, and I remember looking at your location and you were still a ways away. And I was pacing in that hotel room. And I thought to myself, well, you don't want to tell her that. That would seem so uncool. And then I thought, so that's exactly what you're going to say, because I knew the relationship I wanted. And I texted you, I'm walking around this room pacing because I'm nervous and excited to see you, and I want to make sure you get here in one piece. And I think you wrote some version of, "Ah, that's so sweet." For me, that may sound tiny, but that was a turning point. At every stage of this relationship, I have been honest, including in moments where I want to blame you for something completely unfairly, whatever. And I'm like, nope, hold on now. Feel those feelings of whatever. Tell the truth. What's the truth? I have lived by that code, and that's why I feel completely relaxed to be next to you at all times. I loaned you my phone for what, a couple of hours the other day?
Mm-hmm.
I keep nothing from her, and I say that with ease because I'm telling you the truth. If I weren't, I would have some surge of discomfort. I promise you, I'm in no way uncomfortable. So I know what it's like to be loved for all the things I've told you. I've told you things about myself that I was burdened by, but I was met with the appreciation and understanding of a fellow human being who finds my journey interesting. Wow, how long was that? Oh, okay, not so bad. I got lost in. Any comments, or do I go on to the next question?
Comments? Yes. Oh man, I should have wrote them down.
Yeah, you know what? And that's something we'll tell each other. Have a pad of paper when each other talks, because the idea is to find each other fascinating. Sorry, I keep looking from the video of us up to the green. I'm trying to remember. I put sort of Heather's energy around the green light, so I'm sending you the same kind of love that I would send Heather. Well, I mean, similar. We'll say that. So you want to go back? I'll get you a pad. You can contemplate for a second. They can watch you contemplate.
Exciting.
You want to wait?
No. When you asked me those questions in the very, very beginning, I just needed a moment, I think.
Oh, yeah.
What was happening to me in my life currently was I had my son and I was watching him exist within the life that I had brought us into. And I couldn't fight it off anymore. I couldn't fight off the truth anymore. I had like a knowing that I would end up divorced early on. And it was just sitting inside me. This isn't the life I want. This isn't the life I want. I don't want this for my son. I got to do something. I got to do something. And so it happened. Like, yeah, you asked me those questions and it was happening. Everything was changing inside me already. And I couldn't get your questions out of my head. I couldn't get the fact that I answered them the way that I answered them out of my head. So I had to go back and I had to redo it. And so, yeah, the truth set me free. And then when we got together, I became very suspicious of you. Like my brain, it was hard. People don't tell you how hard it is to change your own mistreatment of yourself. Especially when you start gaslighting your own self. And then to get out of that habit, recognize where it came from, and then to change that habit into telling yourself the truth, never not, is just scary. And I had at one point later, years into our relationship, I was like, this is going to kill me. And it kind of did. It killed a version of me, the lying to me version of me. So it's been an incredible journey. And I think that's all I wanted to add. Like, also, I think it's amazing that you can remember the exact moments where you lied, where I'm like, it's probably easier to count how many times I told the truth in my childhood.
It's a choice. One of my favorite stories about truth, it's Heather's friend too. It's my longtime friend. His name is Rick. And he had an ex-girlfriend they were going out at this time, and he went out of the country, and I said, "Oh, I'll go out to coffee with her, keep her company while you're gone." And I had a really nice conversation with her. She seemed like a solid human being. When he came back, she left. And she left him a note, and it said, "This is too hard for me." Because he was, most of the major workshops in my life I've done with this guy. A few I've done at different times, but he's been my journey, he's been my partner on the journey of truth. We see certain things differently. We honor the truth, I think, similarly. So he wanted the same thing in his relationship. And she left him a note that said, "This is too hard for me. I'd rather go back, or I need to go back. I'd rather go back, or I have to go back to lying and pretending. I have to go back to lying and pretending." And I say, and we've talked about this being a game, I say that it's like if you're at an amusement park, you may not like the roller coasters, but I think we can all agree that they are an experience. They may be a terrifying experience, but they're an experience. Your pulse rate goes up and down, and you're scared, and then you're relieved, and then you're scared. And I think the reason that I label this an extreme intimacy game is because telling the truth in every moment means engaging that rapid heart rate, engaging and you have to say, okay, this is going to make me look bad, but, just now, before we started recording, I won't give you any details, but, you're saying it's a perfect example.
It's a perfect example.
I had to tell her I was mad that we hadn't recorded at a certain time, and that I knew it was unfair that I was mad. I'm scared to tell her that. To me, that sounds like a recipe for somebody who's unlovable. But I told her, and I got love. And here we are recording. We started a couple of, I think, 3 minutes after we were done with that fairly short conversation. And I even called it an argument. And then I stopped myself. But wait a minute, that wasn't an argument. And you said no. And then you went on setting this thing up.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember the first time I told someone I felt angry, learning about how to tell the truth with sensitivity and actually express my emotions. I felt like I had pulled the pin on a grenade with my teeth and tossed it at the person. She received it with grace. So I'm a stand for sensitivity and honesty in relationships. I think there's a difference between expressing what's going on inside you with clarity and respect than there is screaming at somebody. I think there's a major difference. And that's what we're here to hopefully inspire you to do. And in fact, when I say inspire and Heather says keep these to about 20 minutes because she thinks that's the appropriate amount of time for people to be able to give you their attention so they can glean any wisdom that we hopefully have to offer. And I see we're at 23. So we still have the other question to answer. Do you have any more on what's your relationship to the truth? I can stop this and we'll do another episode for what's your relationship to sensitivity, now or later, whatever.
I do want to add some more, and then we can.
Take your time. This is just a truth one.
What I'm finding, the longer that I practice living in truth, I'm finding the easier it is to be me. The easier it is to say no to a situation, to a person, to an environment. And it's empowering. The truth is empowering. So I love... I just pulled that word out of my head, and then I was like,
"That's funny."
Truth empowered relationships.
I was like, yeah, it is empowering. Oh yeah.
So it is. It really is, because, I was crumbling under lies growing up and living my life as an adult. I was crumbling under the lies, and Yeah. So my relationship is with truth is I wish there were one word that I could put with it.
Yeah, because you were crumbling. I was separating from myself. I was suffering a lot, losing my connection to myself, losing my connection to my truth.
I was trying to think of
Mental health issues, for sure. For sure.
The truth really helps in all kinds of ways. Like when I'm feeling depressed, instead, like I grew up thinking I'm not allowed to feel depressed. I'm not allowed, what I have going on doesn't matter. I'm not allowed to feel depressed. I'll never feel depressed. I'm just never going to let myself. And then I became an adult and I was like, but this exists, and started my journey with truth. And I was like, this exists within me. I have to let myself feel it. And now I'm to a point where, like earlier today, I was like, I feel like I'm depressed. And that's just the truth of it. Like, I feel like I'm having one of those poor mental health days.
Yeah, she gave me an emotional weather report this morning, which you'll hear about on a subsequent session. And that's I think that's what I woke up to when I was on the phone with my old friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the way that truth helps is I went in there and I accepted it. I accepted the depression. I said, okay, well, let's do the dishes anyways. Let's have a healthy meal anyways. We can do that, and the truth of this feeling can exist at the same time. And then eventually, I don't feel the same way as I felt whenever I accepted it and owned up to it. So
yeah, I think the truth allows the nervous system not to get into a state of rigidity, and we can stay in flow. That's the goal.
okay,
That's
I think
it.
I'm done.
End episode 1. End of episode 1.